Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Gimme Camper. So today we're at Up the Creek RV Camp in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I'm gonna say that, this place has a lot to offer if you're looking for somewhere to stay. I think personally, my number one pick that I've found so far is still gonna be Honeysuckle Meadows, just because of the huge sites and the good value. It is a little bit further away from town than Up the Creek here, but I will tell you that this is a nice place. If you're looking for somewhere a little closer, a few more amenities, we'll go over all those in a few minutes, but this is a pretty decent place. It is going to cost you a little bit more, but it's not as much as some of the other places in the area. We'll get into some of the financial aspects here in a minute, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You guys know I don't do the RV resort thing too often. We did do Dollywood season passes this year, so we're checking out more places in the local area here. I've still not went to all those real high-end places. I can't bring myself to pay $80 a night for a parking spot for this thing. I don't know. I'm still in the mindset if I spend $80 a night, it needs to have a bed with it. So, I'm pretty picky and pretty cheap when it comes to that kind of stuff. But this overall is a pretty decent place to stay. We did finally make it to Dollywood. Yesterday was Saturday. It's in the mid-December here. It rained all day till about 4 or 5 o'clock, but we were able to go see the Christmas lights, which was the main thing that we were trying to get to. But all in all, with all the reservations that Dollywood's making you do these days, even if you got season tickets, and the weather it's just not fared well for us. We've come up here I think 4 times, and this is only the second time that we've been able to go. Because last time when we went to Triple Creek Campground, that video will be right up here if you're looking for somewhere else in the semi-close area. But it was rainy and wet then, so I just didn't want to fool with it at all. Let's start with the pros. It's a pretty small campground. It's just one pretty small loop that has a road cutting it in half. There's a little dog park over there. That's nice. Take your dog to, let them exercise, that kind of stuff. There are a couple of creeks along both sides of the campground here, and those are pretty to look at. You have a little bit more space in between the sites than you do at some of the other places here in town. You don't have as much as somewhere else that I already mentioned, but we're not going to keep beating a dead horse. Some of the sites, even the non-deluxe sites, have a decent amount of space. Some of them are a little bit tight still. Most of those are going to be on the inside of the loop and down on the very end by the road. There's the first 2 or 3 down there I probably wouldn't want to stay at personally. A lot of these other sites do have a few trees in between them, and it's not enough to be like that big of a hazard whenever you're putting your rig in or you're driving around, but it is enough to form a little bit of privacy, which is nice. Cellular service is pretty good here, both on AT&T and Verizon. I think we had about full bars most of the time. The speeds weren't that fast. They were faster here than they were at Triple Creek on the Verizon. It was about the same on the AT&T FirstNet, which was still faster than Verizon. I'm really surprised by this because I really didn't think when we got that about 2 months ago that it was going to be able to keep up just with the regular phone using it as a hotspot. Because a lot of the places that we go, I've always been under the understanding that Verizon's king here in East Tennessee. Apparently they're starting to lose out a little bit. Of course, it might be because the FirstNet deal on that. If you don't know, that's for healthcare workers, first responders. But it's an awesome system. If you have access to get that, I highly recommend it. Another good amenity of the park here is they do have a trolley stop right in the middle of the park. It's on a little road that cuts the loop in half. Trolley comes through here about every 40, 45 minutes. And I gotta say, like if you were driving a motorhome and you didn't bring a car, that'd be an awesome way to get to town and back. I think it's only like $3 for a day pass. I did read that it was $35 for an annual pass. So if you're gonna do this kind of thing often and come up here to all the touristy stuff and do all that mess that I don't really care to do, but $35 for a year pass on the trolley, it's not a bad deal. I'll also say that everything's pretty clean and well kept here. The sites, I came in at night and it was a little hard to find my site, but with the new check-in system that they do where you don't go in the office, they have a folder out by the main sign, and whenever you check in, there is some forms on there that you have to fill out and put in a drop box there. but they do have a map for you, and they have it already wrote how to get to your site. And so that's very helpful. The sites are, I would say they're well marked. The pedestal's marked. They have little lights on them, but all the little lights weren't on whenever I was looking for the site the other night. There is a small little sign in between a lot of sites with the number and the arrow pointing toward that site. I had no idea those were even there in the middle of the night. But I'll say that everything is very clean. The staff here that I've run into, the hosts, they've been nice and courteous. They offered to help spot me when I backed in. I personally prefer to do it by myself, but I just get out and I take my time, because when you don't take your time is when you get a problemo. I also have those backup lights and cameras that I installed on the camper, but it was a little rainy when I would come in. It was just like drizzling a little bit, but my rear view, my backup camera, it was kind of fuzzed out because it was wet. So moral of the story is just take your time, go slow. If you're at any hesitation, just get out, double check, get back in. It's gonna be all right. There might be a couple people waiting on you. They can wait. Right now is your time that you're gonna spend backing safely into your site. If it takes a few extra minutes, it takes a few extra minutes. I believe all the sites are full hookup. The gravel pads at each side are fairly level, which was nice. Well, let's talk about cons. We're gonna start with the price. It's a little bit more than I like to spend. I like to stay like $30, $35 a night on the top end. This was, I believe I paid $55 a night, but their prices do change based on the season. They have 3 different prices. They have one for peak, one for regular, and one for fall, and it doesn't say what separates all that as far as the timeline. So it's hard to kind of maneuver that. But I'll also tell you that while the price I thought was fair at $55, just based on the area, it's like, consider that the base price, because then we're going to start nickel and diming. So if you're going to bring more than one car, you got to pay per night for that. If you're going to bring more than 2 people, you got to pay per person for that. And that's per person per day. And I'm not a huge fan of these added little fees. And so I usually avoid those places that have that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to tell you that it's there. The next con that we'll talk about, which isn't really a con for me, but it is for a lot of people, is they don't have a bathhouse. Honeysuckle Meadows didn't have a bathhouse. They don't have a bathhouse here. And for me, that's not a big deal, because I hardly ever use the bathhouse. I have a bathroom in here, that's what I use. Some people don't use it, especially in the wintertime. Some people want to use their camper but don't want to unwinterize it. I don't really understand that either, because it only takes like 15 minutes both ways. So I just re-winterize it every other weekend, and it's not a big deal. It takes just a few minutes. I've got a video on my previous method for doing that here, but we'll put something new out before too long. There's one more little oopsie about this campground. When you sign it in and they have you sign the forms, there's a little waiver on the back of that form that you got to sign that says like something to the effect of, I'm aware that I'm camping in the flood zone and I need to pay attention to national weather advisories, which was okay, but it made me a little bit nervous whenever it rained all day Saturday. But I didn't even notice the creek rise all that much. There are the cabins on the other side of the creek. You can tell that they're built about 10 to 12 feet high, kind of like a coastal area. So I'm sure that it probably does flood through here every so often. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so let's go over my site recommendations, the places that I would stay if I was to come back here. These are in the order that I would pick. Some of them are regular sites, some of them are upgraded sites, deluxe sites, some of them have fireplaces, but these are the places that I would stay. 25, 18, 20, 28, 27, 26, 43, 5, 47, 29, 15, 2, 52. And their pull-through sites here don't have a lot of space in between. They have a little bit more than some places that I've seen. But if you're wanting to do a pull-through, I would recommend pull-through site 3. Sites to avoid. This first section is going to be just sites that most people are going to want to avoid. But if you have a motorhome, then have at it. It's just it's set up backwards, so it's a pull-in site. There's a creek right in front of the site, so you can't pull a trailer in there and unhook. So they reserve it for only motorhomes. Those are sites B, and then 21 through 23. The biggest site that I would avoid in this whole place is going to be site A. Site A was a little bit narrow. It's a little bit of an awkward angle, and because of that, I guess they've probably had problems. So to protect their utilities, they put a couple of big boulders in front of them, because apparently that tells me that somebody's backed into the utilities before. So they put that there to protect their utilities. Now, they didn't put anything there to protect your camper from them boulders. So whenever you're backing in, if you're going to choose this site, which is a okay site, but if you're going to use it because everything else is full, just be real careful when you back in, because there's nothing to protect you from that boulder. Sites 44 and 45, which I believe are host sites. They're just really small. And then the last ones that I would not recommend are the first couple down here by the road. I can't remember the numbers exactly, so I'm gonna put them on the screen here. All right, guys, so thanks for sticking around with us. Thanks for joining this week's journey. We'll see you around. Be sure to like and subscribe if you hadn't.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.